Okay, this is part 6, the last part of quotes from Brian Tracy. He says, the more interested you become in another person, the more likely they will be interested in you. That's like in a business meeting or a formal meeting. With women, it's weird, but women, it's different. Depends. He's talking about business relationships. He's not talking about like romantic. With romance, you have to play games with women. You have to act like you're not interested. You got to do all kinds of things. It's weird, but then it becomes a contest between SMVs, sexual market values, and you have to convince her that your sexual market value is above hers, otherwise she won't consider. She'll think she's too good for you. So you have to play games. You don't get to not play the games. The only way you don't have to play a game is if she's convinced already your SMV is so much higher than hers that she's interested in you. But otherwise, you do have to play games if your SMVs are at all close. And if yours is way below hers, then she's not even going to consider you. It doesn't matter what you do. Okay, Brian Tracy continues. This is the principle of reciprocity. Take every opportunity to say and do things that make other people feel valuable. The key to raising the self-esteem of others is simply to make them feel important. Henry Ford said it well, never complain, never explain. What cannot be cured must be endured. Okay. Yeah, I've heard other people say, there's no point in complaining and there's no point in explaining, because if they like you, they already understand and they give you the benefit of the doubt. If they don't like you, they're not going to care or want to hear it anyway. So resolve to stop all criticizing, condemning, and complaining. Be agreeable. Don't waste time arguing with others. Again, this all depends on the context. This is sort of like advice for how to behave in a workplace. In a workplace, you got to be professional for the most part. You can joke around a little bit and have friends, but there's also the big professional component of it. And it also depends if you're talking to men or women. You can talk a lot more freely with men, somebody your own sex, than you can with the opposite sex, okay? Because then there's a whole, are you attracted to me or not? So you end up not saying as much to people from the other sex at work. Good to have an attitude of gratitude. Listening builds trust. Listening builds self-esteem. Getting along well with others is perhaps the most important thing you'll ever learn how to do. Whenever I have to correct one of my children, I always start by saying, I love you very much, but you have to stop behaving like that. If you want to raise super kids, tell them that you love them every day. Successful people are always looking for opportunities to help others. Practice the philosophy of continuous improvement. Get a little bit better each day. Yeah, I believe that's big time true. Because most people just give up, say, I'm too busy, there's nothing I can do. But if you just, between the lines, are constantly pushing to keep learning every day, the years go by and you'll know a lot. Whereas all the people that aren't doing that, they're going to be like this or going down. It's a fact. Take responsibility for everything in your life. This gets you to focus on your goals. This gets you to have focus on what you can do. This creates positive emotions. Yeah. Talented, hardworking people who are going to achieve, they take responsibility, say, it's my fault, I screwed up. Whereas a lot of people, they don't want it to be their fault. But the reason why you want stuff to be your fault is then, if it comes from under your control, you could change your behavior. The most important rule for conversation is whoever asks the questions has the most control. The person who's asking the questions controls the conversation. Continuous learning is a requirement for high-level jobs. Yeah, so you want to have a knowledge management system that you can constantly acquire information and retain it. So if you have to know hypertension, keep a text document on hypertension. If you have to know diabetes, do it for diabetes, coronary disease, or whatever else it is relevant to you. Brain power is more important than muscle power. Every great success is an accumulation of thousands of ordinary efforts that no one sees or appreciates. Yeah, and I'd say, there's brain power like for academics. There's knowledge power for what you know for like a job and making money. There's muscle power for fitness. There's emotional, social power for getting along with people, so to speak. Those are all separate sorts of educations. How does one learn how to do well in school or what they have to know for a job? How does one learn to get along with others? How does one maintain high-level fitness and health? Every great success is accumulation of thousands of other smaller efforts. The purpose of life is to build loving relationships. Trust is the critical factor in all relationships. Well, one thing, Aristotle would say too is the biggest pleasure is just learning. Because if you put all your hope in a loving relationship, your wife could just divorce you, or they could die, or something like that. So it's nice to put your extra energy into something that you can kind of control yourself. But, there's an element of uncertainty and vulnerability in life, and there's no way around that. A word is a tool to express a thought. To earn more, you must learn more. The more you learn, the more you can earn. The more motivated you are to learn, the faster you will take in new information. Learning how to learn is a key core skill for having a good life, a better life. To earn more, you must learn more and do more. A written goal gives you a train track to run on. To set a goal, verbalize it, rationalize it, emotionalize it, then write it down. The more you achieve, the more you will then be able to achieve. Time is life. The quality of your life is the quality of your time management. Yeah, because a lot of times students will come to me for advice. I sometimes tutor students, the children of family, friends, and stuff are sent to me. And they'll be frustrated. They're not doing so well. They wanted to get an A, they only got a C or a B. I'll say, okay, you're on spring break right now. You're on Christmas vacation. You're on summer vacation. Are you studying every day? And they go, no. I'm like, well, why not? If you want to catch up with people, then you have to do more work than they're doing to catch up with them. Seek the best tutors. Work in the off time, okay? High-level achievers, they work on Saturday and Sunday, okay? It's just a fact. Okay, says, my friend Charlie Jones said, you will be in 5 years what you are today, except for the books you read and the people you meet. So you want to be constantly reading, learning something every day, and, if the opportunity comes to meet somebody interesting, go for it. A lot of your mentors and teachers will be people on the internet nowadays, or from books. An extraordinary book can have a big effect on you. Open up a whole venue. Businesses fail because of low sales. Businesses succeed because of high sales. Everything is commentary. Yeah, a lot of people know how to, make a cheeseburger, but they don't know how to sell it, for example. So you want to make sure you got people in your business that know how to sell stuff. There's a simple way to determine how good you are at what you do. Are you in great demand? If you are very good, people are trying continually to hire you away from your current employment. When you are in demand, you have job security. Yeah, not in medicine. If you know how to cure patients, that's irrelevant to getting a conventional job, And on the internet, it's kind of irrelevant too, because telling people the truth doesn't make money. What makes money is selling them supplements or promoting something for a corporation. So that's why you have to have Christianity, something that says, do what is right, regardless of the money. Brian Tracy, my favorite affirmation is, I like myself. I'm the best. I'm the best. It's good to say to yourself, I can do it. I can do it. Yeah, I would do that. That would get me psyched up. I learned that from Brian Tracy, and that was actually helpful to me. Because lots of times I'm the underdog, and I'm all by myself, and I'm facing some giant competitive obstacle. And so I have to get myself psyched up that I could achieve it. And, I have to plan. Let's say I want to try to write my book, and I got only, 7 days off for the month. So I have to work 12 hours a day on it on all those days off. And I got to get myself psyched up to wake up first thing in the morning, crank. So you have to generate that energy. It has to come from somewhere. Mark Schultz, the world and Olympic champion wrestler, my good friend at Stanford, I saw what he would do before big competitions. He'd wear sunglasses and he wouldn't speak to anybody a week before the competition. And it sounds a little crazy, but man, he was just building up emotional energy and tension. And when he would come out, man, he was off the charts energy. He'd just dominate these international competitions. Okay, he says, the most common driving thought for persons who become millionaires is the desire for financial independence. If you want to become a millionaire, you should think like a millionaire. They focus on financial independence. They drive used cars. They do not waste money. Listen attentively to the sales product. Listening builds trust. The most important thing to build a high-quality relationship is trust. Objections are a sign of interest. Treat objections as a request for more information. When they say an objection, ask them, how you mean by that? If a person has a single objection, they won't buy. When you start to focus on achieving financial independence, your financial situation will improve. We're almost done. Just a little more from Brian Tracy. Future intent determines present action. Your car should be a classroom. That's an Earl Nightingale quote. But Brian Tracy said the same thing. So does Kiyosaki. Anybody who knows about getting educated. If you got to commute somewhere, why not get educated during that time? Have a note card in the car. When you get to a stoplight, take some notes. Okay, Brian Tracy, you should make sure that you are in the top 10% in your field. If you drive, let's see, 4 days a week. There's 50 weeks in a year. Actually, 52. 2 hours a day, hour each way. It's a minimum of 400 years. Well, that's at least 40 books, maybe more than that. So you can very easily read tons of books. We talked about this before. Listen to a book in the car, read a book whenever you're in the bathroom, read a book when you exercise on the treadmill, and then read at night while you're eating dinner off the computer or off a paper book. And you'll read easily 3-4 books a week. So let's say you read 4 books a week. In 1 year, you're going to read 200 books. Okay. You become what you think about most of the time. Don't worry what other people think about you because they're not thinking about you. The way to determine if something is important is to ask yourself, what are the consequences if I do this or if I don't do this? Brian Tracy says, I once wrote 4 books in a year and now he's written 40 books. He says it's good to, I think his best book is Maximal Achievement. That was by far my favorite book by him. Speak to Win was good, but Maximal Achievement was my favorite book by him. That helped me. That helped me at a time. When I was a young guy, I needed all that getting psyched out because I was always going against some major competitive obstacles. And so I needed something to make me feel I could do all this by myself. It's good to set peace of mind as your highest priority. Your goal should be to have the reputation as the hardest worker in your group. Yes, if you're a monomaniac pursuing high goals, you will be. Creative people are constantly reading. They read primarily nonfiction. Yeah, and it's good to read nonfiction, but you also want to read some of these novels because they make you smarter. They give you this big vocabulary, and it becomes obvious because what you see is most people, they all seem to talk normal. And you get this idea that everybody has the same vocabulary because people only talk about what they're comfortable talking about. But if you start reading literature and advanced science and stuff, and then you discuss it with people, or you hear them speak on these things, or hear them have to read these things, you will see that you have really developed a unique type of knowledge. Because I used to wonder, did I learn anything? I read all these books, and it seemed like everyone else was just as articulate as me. But when I started having conversations about more advanced stuff, then I realized if they hadn't read that stuff, they couldn't go there, okay? And I also know, because I had lots of doctors who I'd kind of argue with. They were friends of mine, but they also had a little bit of a competitive rivalry with me. And I just know from experience, having read all this literature, philosophy, and history, we would start arguing, and then the conversation would go off on a side tangent. And because I'd done all this reading, I could just, bam, whatever they threw at me, it was just easy for me to handle it. I had so much bigger vocabulary and knowledge base than they did. So that actually was useful in that context. Okay, the top people plan long into the future. The most successful people plan long into the future. You can always go free for that extra mile. There's never a traffic jam on that extra mile. It's the 40-plus rule. Every hour you work above 40-hour baseline each week will increase your productivity that much. The ability to set goals and make plans for their accomplishment is the master skill of success. Success equals goals, and everything else is commentary. We're almost done with Brian Tracy here. How important you feel you are largely determines your quality of life. The way you improve a relationship is by putting more time into it. The fastest way to improve your relationship is to make the other person feel more important. Smile to let the audience know that you are happy to see them. The happier you are to see them, the happier they will be to see you. The more you speak or write, the better you get at it, and there is no limit to how good you can get at public speaking. Top professionals treat the audience as friends. A power pause is good to do because it helps give the audience time to understand something and helps them to avoid information overload. Pause adds emphasis and attention to whatever is about to be said. If you have a sore throat, you can drink warm to hot water with some honey and some lemon juice, and this will help the voice in those circumstances. All right, so that's it for Brian Tracy. I hope you found that helpful.